kidnapping of the schoolgirls in Chibok, northeast Nigeria, changed each and every one of their lives. Here's the story of one girl who was one of the luckier ones, managing to jump out of the truck as she was taken away and sprint to safety. Arise correspondent Judita Da Silva reports.
10 years ago, Dina awoke to a living nightmare. Gunfire surrounded her as Boko Haram fighters stormed her school. But as she was being driven into the shadows, she managed to escape. Now she's pursuing a PhD at Berkeley in California. But that night is never far from Dina's mind.
I don't think two weeks will actually pass by without me at least remembering something from there, because I mean it's inevitable. This journey itself, like it's a product of that incident, right? I ended up in America. I mean, like me going to a private school, a better school, it all happened because of this incident. So whatever I do, I will always remember these incidents. And so, I mean, my friends are still in captivity.
Dina now dedicates her research to ensuring that what happened to her and her friends never happens again.
I, took multiple classes on violence, and I think almost all of my research, papers, mainly focus on, Boko Haram, how to dismantle Boko Haram, why this specific group, was originated, from the first place, the root causes of the organization.
What Dina went through would have broken some girls, and it did initially deter her from returning to school. But in the end, she was determined not to let the militants win.
Not going to school, for me at the time will kind of, give the power, to Boko Haram, the power they sought. Like, okay, this thing happened to you in school. We don't want you to go to school, and now you're not going to school, so we got you. We give you, we have the power now. So me not going to school will actually give them the power they think that, they had. So I was like, no, you are not going to take that away from me. I know I had I always had a dream prior to the kidnapping.
Dina now looks to the future, a future that at one point she wasn't sure she'd have.
Also, the kidnapping of the girls led to international outrage. A campaign to bring back our girls was launched, driven by Hadiza Bala Usman and Obi Ezekwisili. There were calls for the girls' return from politicians and celebrities from around the world. Arise international correspondent Faith Orr looks back at how it unfolded.
When the girls were taken from their school in the middle of the night, it wasn't just the parents and local community demanding they be handed back. A global movement was born. Bring back our girls. It drew support from actors, TV hosts, singers. For a time, it felt like whenever a celebrity was on the red carpet, their look wasn't complete without a sign demanding, bring back our girls. Former US First Lady Michelle Obama was one of the most prominent involved. Negotiations at that time led to the release of about 100 of the girls in 2016 and 17, but some are still being held, while the world's attention has moved on.
When I remember this, my doctor, I'm sorry. I am sorry. I am sorry. Because she's the only best doctor among those I have that the God gave me. So I will never forget her. I will never forget her. In fact, I will never forget her.
The girls who have been released say the world has forgotten about their plight.
After secondary school, they say that even master's degree, everything they will do for us. But after that secondary school, we didn't see anything again. Nobody calls us that this girl has graduated from secondary school. Let us take us for the university or other school. No, they didn't fulfill their promise.
Nigeria's military has been fighting Boko Haram since 2009. It's a conflict that's killed tens of thousands of people and displaced more than 2 million. But the group is far from the only threat these days. Gunmen now attack schools for ransom. Hundreds of children were kidnapped in March alone. Bring Back Our Girls might still be a vital demand in Nigeria, but the slogan is unlikely to make a return to the red carpets. Faith Orr, Arise News, Abuja.
Bring Back Our Girls. Yesterday made it 10 years since the kidnapping of girls from a secondary school in Chibok community in Borno State. Your take on this story?
I mean, a day I'll never forget. So 10 years ago, where was I? I was out seeing a friend in Ghana. I was somewhere stuck in the University of Ghana in Legon. And I remember somebody had walked up to me that I talked to a few minutes ago, and she told me that they had kidnapped girls in your country. And that was when the reality hit me. And about a week after, when I came back to Nigeria, it was, oh, they were going to be returned soon. And they never came back home until some of them, you know, were rescued and all of that, or some of them could get out of it. And we all remember the episode of There Is God in all of this. We all remember all the dramatis personae. We all remember what happened as regards the back and forth on the politicking. It was on the strength of incidents like this that the APC came to power, and they promised that they were going to get rid of insecurity. But many years down the line, insecurity still persists in Nigeria. Until date, we still have the families of these girls hurting. You saw the ones that came here the other day. You saw the pain in their faces. The fact that now we now have a policy where we are having some state governments say, oh, try to marry those that hurt you, those that traumatized you. And we had not stopped all of this insecurity in the country. After this, then we had the case of Dapchi. And we had the case of Leah Sharibu. And since then, it's continued. Now, it's now become a full-blown industry. They kidnap, before you know it, state governors will negotiate and all of that, and they'll release them. So they're having a field day now. Then, when that happened, it was a jarring assault. But today, it's become an industry. It's become an ecosystem. It's become a business proposition. One of the biggest business propositions in Nigeria, which is a nefarious business proposition. Crime has taken root in the edges of this country. And except we stop this once and for all, nothing will work in our country. The question we now ask is, who's next? From the Kankara children to the last episode we had in the school in Kaduna, it's not a case of who is next. The only difference this time around is, at least when the negotiation is right by the state government, they return them. Then what do we do for those ones? Even the ones that we give another chance that we send to schools, you remember how these same people came here to complain how they are being marginalized, how people still abuse them based on their trauma. And I think that American University must do a lot to be able to protect the mental health of those people. What about the families of those that have passed? The fathers, the pain that is pervasive. What have we done? I submit to you this morning that after 10 years that we all campaigned bitterly for bringing back our girls, the sad reality is that most of our girls have not come back home. And in fact, our children are now being taken at will of these bandits. That's the state of Nigeria today.
Okay, what we deal with in this story is the ineffectuality of the Nigerian state. The responsibility of the state is to ensure the security and the welfare of the people. The passage in the Nigerian Constitution, Section 14, sub 2b, that we have quoted ad nauseam. Now, when the state fails to secure the people, we come back to this table and we say, oh, Nigeria has happened to them. So 276 children abducted April 14, 15, 2014. What happened to them was Nigeria, the ineffectuality of the Nigerian state. But unfortunately, then the successive Nigerian governments have not been able to make any difference In 2014, the Jonathan administration, working with Gordon Brown, Prime Minister Gordon Brown, Labour Prime Minister, the office of the Minister of the Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, and partners in the media, including Prince Nduka Obagbena of This Day newspaper, as it then was, try to see what could be done about this Safe Schools initiative. I think it's an absolute disgrace that years later we have not made any progress with the Safe Schools initiative. And so here we are, 10 years later, lamenting the fact that 276 girls were abducted, some were rescued, but 89, some newspapers say, 91, some reports say, are still in custody. And the ones that returned came back with, was it 48 children? Yeah. So some of them came back. Yeah, the ones that returned came back with children, about 41 children. So they bring back our girl's subject, 10 years later, is still alive. In other countries, you will not have a situation where people will be abducted and they will come back with 34 children. I think the correct figure is 34 children. Well, as of this morning, we have had a report from the Murtala Mohammed Foundation through Mrs. Aisha Mohammed Oyebode, who over the weekend had a virtual report detailing, the trajectory of the crisis, and also released a book, The Stolen Daughters of Chibok. The Stolen Daughters of Chibok by Aisha Mohammed Oyebode, and photography by Akintunde Akile, an award-winning photographer, where I got a copy through the kindness of Opeyemi Adamolekun. I'm expecting that Mrs. Oyebode would, send me my own complimentary copies. Ruben Abati, having been over the years, in the past, a resource person for the Murtala Mohammed Foundation. But I saw the book and I've been looking at it. Other books have been generated by that experience. Aisha says it's Beneath the Tamarind Tree. Yeah. And also Ellen Abila, the Chibok girls. Ellen Abila worked with me when I was a contributing editor to Hints magazine. So you have this literature. So this, Chibok girls phenomenon is becoming like the Civil War. Books are coming out, articles are coming out, and all of that. The responsibility of the Nigerian government, as President Tinubu reads all of these stories, and I hope he gets an opportunity to read the books also, is that the kidnapping of Nigerian children is unacceptable. The kidnapping of any citizen is an insult to government. And that, beyond all of that, all the persons who have been kidnapped have to be returned. And that the basic job of government is to ensure security and welfare for all of us. Kidnapping for ransom has become a business economy, an ecosystem on its own. It's one of the things that the Tinubu administration must focus on and check, so that we don't stay here in another 10 years' time. Well, in another 10 years, I probably will not be on television doing small talk, chit-chat. But Nigeria has a responsibility, to make sure that we don't have this kind of reality.
All right, I think the sad aspect of this 10-year remembrance is on a number of scales. The first is that, unfortunately, 10 years later, all the girls are not back. The varying accounts, as has been mentioned, of the number of girls who are still in captivity. But what we do know is that there are over 85 girls still in captivity. And only you and I can imagine what is happening or what has happened to them if they've been in captivity for 10 years. The question would then be around, are they still alive? What kind of life are they living? What have they been subjected to? It doesn't bear thinking. And I think it's even more traumatic for the parents who have been waiting for so long to see the return of their daughters come back, to imagine what their children have been. I mean, we had guests over with us who talked about how some of these parents have died in the wait of, in the course of waiting for the return of their children. We see parents who are still hopeful 10 years later, because at the end of the day, you still want to keep hope alive that your child will come. I saw a heartbreaking clip of a mother who still irons her daughter's clothes in anticipation of the day when she would return. The hope of a parent will never die, especially when it is with regards to their child. And that's why we can never forget these girls, nor say, let us just accept that maybe it is a foregone, there's closure. Absolutely not. What's also sad about this is the plight of those who even managed to have been rescued or who escaped. That we saw the girls here a few days back, some of them, 2 of them, and it didn't look like they had been well looked after. In fact, in some interviews, a number of them said they seem to have been forgotten. We saw that report earlier on where the girl said that it seemed like all the promises that were made to them in the initial stage had been forgotten. Promises to take them to university, promises to ensure that they received full education and support. Following secondary school, everything vanished into thin air. So what I'm hoping today is that we will not just pay lip service to the anniversary, the 10th anniversary of the abduction of the Chibok girls. What we can do is, number one, to make commitments to ensure that this will never happen again. Unfortunately, one has to be cautiously optimistic about this, because after the Chibok girls' abduction, we've seen a series of abductions, not just of girls, but even of boys in schools. But what can we do to move this forward? How can we stop this? Only yesterday, the coordinator of the Financing the Safe School Initiative had come out to say that, they were now going to launch something. Why did it take them 10 years? Why did it take them the anniversary when the world has come back again to talk about this, to begin to talk about strategies to keep children safe? How many children, Nigerian children, had to be kidnapped for the government to wake up, or to begin to talk about financing safe school initiative, engaging community members, vigilantes and the likes to ensure that children are safe? After hundreds of children have been kidnapped in Nigerian schools, too little, too late, unfortunately. It almost seems as if the whole campaign, the worldwide attention didn't yield a lot of effort. And that's why, unfortunately, when we talk about committees and talks, it only ends at being a talk shop. What we want to see is action. The best way to remember this day is to ensure that we do not have to mourn another set of schoolgirls or schoolboys being abducted in the school. Can we keep our children safe? How difficult is that? And so it speaks to a bigger concern around not just education, the effect on education. I can't even begin to imagine how many children were pulled out of school as a result of that abduction. So losing the population of young people. Number 2, the security at large, not just of our students, but Nigerians as a whole. So a number of things there. It's a sad one, unfortunately, and I don't even know if we can be optimistic about protecting our children, but we must keep hope alive. And I'm hoping that we'll keep the legacy of these girls alive in such a way that will prevent this incident from happening again.